Hey everyone, I'm working to hit 1,000 subscribers, and I need your help to get there. If you enjoy this content, please hit that subscribe button right now.
They could not have scripted this any better, even if they tried, and for the Toronto Blue Jays, the timing feels almost suspiciously perfect. Just as the rest of Major League Baseball spirals into chaos, with deals flying across the league like sparks from a live wire, the Blue Jays find themselves standing in the calm center of the storm, watching the board clear in front of them. This is one of those moments where the off-season stops feeling random and starts feeling deliberate, and if you're a Jays fan, you can sense that something significant is brewing beneath the surface. Before we go any further, make sure you like the video, share it with a fellow fan, and subscribe if you haven't already, because the next few minutes could reshape how you see this entire off-season. Today has been relentless across the league, the kind of day where front offices barely have time to breathe, let alone sleep. While the Blue Jays haven't officially announced a move at the time of recording, the absence of action should not be mistaken for inactivity. In fact, it's quite the opposite. Moves elsewhere have quietly removed obstacles, redirected rivals, and opened doors that were previously jammed shut. Reports have dropped, executives have spoken, and for Toronto, each new detail feels like another piece clicking into place. Let's begin with the report that set the tone for everything that followed. Speaking live from the winter meetings, insiders Jon Heyman and Jon Morosi named the Blue Jays, alongside the Red Sox, as two of the most aggressive teams in attendance. That word, aggressive, matters more than any single rumor. It directly challenges the growing narrative that Ross Atkins has been idle or indecisive. Aggression doesn't always look like instant signings. Sometimes it looks like patience, positioning, and waiting for the market to bend rather than break you. If you've ever played chess, this feels like the mid-game, where one wrong move costs you everything, and restraint is just as powerful as action. Much of the noise earlier in the week centered around Kyle Schwarber, a name the Blue Jays were loosely connected to but never truly married to. Schwarber ultimately signed a 5-year deal with the Philadelphia Phillies, carrying a hefty annual value. For Toronto, this outcome was quietly ideal. Schwarber staying in the National League keeps a dangerous bat away from divisional rivals, and more importantly, it effectively removes Philadelphia from another, much larger conversation. The Phillies were widely viewed as the Blue Jays' biggest competition for Kyle Tucker, and with Schwarber now anchored in their lineup, it no longer makes sense for them to chase another expensive left-handed slugger. This is where the dominoes really start to fall. Kyle Tucker's market doesn't just shrink, it clarifies. One major suitor steps away, and suddenly Toronto's path looks cleaner. Tucker's decision may still be weeks away, but the landscape around him is already shifting. This is the sort of development that doesn't grab headlines on its own, yet could prove decisive when contracts are finally signed. Of course, baseball never allows optimism without a counterweight. Reports also surfaced that the Baltimore Orioles have reached out to Tucker's camp. There's history there, with Baltimore's front office ties tracing back to Houston, and that alone is enough to raise an eyebrow. Still, when you strip it back, the Blue Jays remain better positioned. Toronto offers a more established roster, a recent World Series appearance, and a clear sense of urgency that Baltimore is still building towards. Interest does not always equal leverage, and in this case, it feels more like due diligence than a genuine threat. While Tucker headlines the conversation, another market has been simmering just beneath the surface, and that's where things get even more interesting. Ketel Marte's name has started circulating heavily, with fresh reports suggesting the Red Sox are emerging as serious contenders. On the surface, that might concern some Jays fans, but context is everything. If Boston commits significant resources to Marte, it almost certainly removes them from contention elsewhere, particularly in the Bo Bichette sweepstakes. And yes, Bo Bichette's future is still hovering over this entire off-season like a looming question mark. Meetings have taken place, conversations have been had, and while the market for Bichette remains robust, every rival that shifts focus elsewhere subtly strengthens Toronto's position. The idea of the Red Sox landing Marte while the Blue Jays secure Tucker, or even retain leverage in other areas, is a trade-off most fans would happily accept. Not every battle needs to be won to win the war. Another layer to this story is the bullpen, specifically the closer market. Edwin Diaz came off the board with a massive deal, choosing the bright lights and fresh rings over other suitors. Toronto could have matched the money, but desire matters just as much as dollars, and sometimes players simply have their sights set elsewhere. The important takeaway isn't who the Jays missed out on, but that they are still actively hunting for impact, whether that comes in the form of a late-inning arm or another position player. If you're enjoying this breakdown so far, don't forget to subscribe, because these threads are only going to tighten as the winter meetings continue. Perhaps the most encouraging development of the day, though, came from someone already wearing Blue Jays colors. Dylan Cease, speaking publicly for the first time since joining Toronto, revealed that he personally instructed his agent, Scott Boras, to prioritize a deal with the Blue Jays as soon as free agency opened. That statement carries enormous weight. This wasn't Toronto convincing a star to take a chance. This was a star actively choosing Toronto. For years, critics clung to the idea that players didn't want to come north of the border. Cease comments dismantle that narrative in one stroke. He didn't just tolerate the idea of playing in Toronto, he chased it. He spoke about canvassing fellow players, asking around the league, and receiving nothing but glowing reviews about the city and the organization. According to him, there wasn't a single negative voice in the room. Kevin Gausman's name came up as well, a reminder that culture spreads quietly through clubhouses and private conversations long before it reaches the public. These are the moments that reshape perception. When players like Cease share their experiences, others listen. Kyle Tucker listens. Bo Bichette listens. Word of mouth remains the most powerful recruiter in sports, and right now, Toronto's reputation is working in its favor. This is how off-seasons are truly won, not always through headline-grabbing contracts, but through alignment. Rivals commit elsewhere. Markets narrow. Players talk. Confidence builds. Ross Atkins and John Schneider have both reiterated that the Blue Jays are far from finished, and days like today explain why. The groundwork is being laid carefully, deliberately, and with a clear vision of where this roster needs to go. As the dust continues to swirl around the winter meetings, one thing feels increasingly certain. The Blue Jays are not reacting to the market, they are shaping it. Each passing hour brings new clarity, and with that clarity comes opportunity. If you've been waiting for the moment when Toronto stops feeling like a rumored destination and starts feeling like a preferred one, this might be it. We'll keep tracking every update as it drops, because this story is far from over. Make sure you like the video, share it with other Jays fans, and subscribe to stay right here as the next move unfolds. Sometimes, the loudest statement a team can make is the one they haven't made yet, and right now, the silence around Toronto feels louder than ever.